I was looking at this the other day, talking to a buddy, one of our mutual friends. We're talking pass rush, and we're talking about how teams can be successful. You always talk about there's more than one way to get to the finish line. Teams can be successful doing it differently. And he brought up a great point. He said, look in the NFC East, and two of the best pass rush groups, if you look at it. So I'm going to pull up the numbers here so we can look at it. So if you're looking at how they rush, you can go to PFF, and there's a cool way to pull up some of these stats you can look at. But this one is about stunt percentage. So how many what percent of the time are you running games and you're not just a straight rush, right? Mm-hmm. And if you look at it, the team that did it the most last year was here. Let's pull it up here. 1 second. Pass stunt percentage. So the team that did it the most was the Dallas Cowboys, 42.9%. And when you watch the tape, you'll see it. They're TEET games all over the place. They're running all kinds of loops and stunts and really trying to challenge your communication, utilizing the athleticism that they possess. 42.9%. The team that's second, ironically, is the Niners, 33%. So that's the very top. Those are teams that are running games, running stunts more than anybody else in the league. And then you look down here at the bottom, the two teams that did it the least, the Philadelphia Eagles. So you got the Eagles, Cowboys, same division. The Philadelphia Eagles only ran stunts on 14.2% of their pass rushes. The team that was right next to them, the Kansas City Chiefs, was 17.7. So you look at that, Buck, and you pull it up and you're like, well, wait a second. Like, if we're talking about the great pass rush teams, and let's look at the sacks then on top of that. So if you stunt percentage, you've got Dallas and San Francisco who do it the most, two great pass rushes. Philly and KC do it the least, two great pass rushes. In sacks, Philly was first, KC was second, Dallas was third, and San Francisco was seventh. So it's fascinating to me because we say like, oh, it's a copycat league. Well, what do you do? Like, these are the two extremes. The ones who are doing it the most are doing great. The ones who are doing it the least are doing great. So it's fascinating to me, the different approaches to it. And one of the things that I went and watched all the sacks. I was curious on, with the games that they were running, how it worked. And if you look at, and we were just talking about building blocks, you look at Micah Parsons, and if you look at Bosa, both of them are great on games. They're great on, run. You can loop them, and they're so athletic. They're good at it. Their best rushes when you watch the tape is when they're running 2 and 3 man games on the other side, and they leave them one-on-one. So it's almost a mixture, right? So it's like, okay, I don't need to fluff it up with this guy. Just let him go. Just win. The other guys, it's almost like kind of like a magician, like look over here, and then all of a sudden, whoop, I got you on the other side. It's fascinating. And then those teams more, really, really athletic, using speed. Then when you look at the Chiefs and the Eagles, who again, first and second in the league in sacks, and they run the least amount of stunts in the league, their rushers incorporate more power. So they kind of just crush dudes. We don't need to we're not trying to trick you. We're not trying to challenge your communication. We're going to explode off the ball, and we're going to try and run through you. And they do it better than anybody else in the league. It's fascinating to me, just the two different ways you can do it.
Okay, so the teams at the bottom, it was Kansas City and San Francisco, or more straight line?
The straight line teams were Philly and KC. So Philly, the lowest in the league, KC, the second lowest in the league. And the teams at the top were Dallas and San Francisco. And the fascinating thing to me is San Francisco and Philly, their coaching tree is aligned. So I thought they would be doing the same thing because they both kind of come from that Jim Washburn tree. But you don't. You've got San Francisco running all kinds of games, and you got Philly running the least amount of games in the league.
So here's what stands out to me. There's some people, like Steve Jobs used to always talk about simplicity. The ultimate sophistication is that. And so, DJ, they talk about whatever it is that you do, be great at it. And so what you're seeing, the two respective parts of the spectrum, they're a team that have even committed to, we're going to be the best stunting game team in the league. We're going to do it. This is who we are. We're not going to live in both worlds. This is what we do. So they've gone all out in doing it. So I bet you their practice structure is all about gaming.
100% true. That's true. I know that for a fact. It's
either all games. Everything we're doing is about stunning, looping, and doing that stuff. And then you have the Eagles and the Chiefs are saying, oh, no, we whoop you.
Yeah.
Our guys win one-on-one. So then their practice stuff is power rushes, one-on-one drills, working hands to defeat one-on-one situations or double team blocks and the like. And what it tells me is, regardless of what your philosophy is, you got to go all in on whatever it is that you believe in. But you can't live in both worlds, because the teams in the middle end up being right in the middle.
100%.
And so if you're all in on, hey man, I believe we're athletic enough to game it, everything that we do is about gaming and stunts and movement. The people that we bring in fit that world. And so it makes sense. And that's a lot of clarity that I get now when you look at it. The top 4 teams live 2 different worlds, but whatever it is, they're great at it. And so it works.
I'm so glad. This is why I brought this up, because you provided clarity to me, because I know when you said that, I know for a fact, in talking to some of the coaches, that they said with Dallas, their time in their indie group work is all majority of the time spent on games and timing and landmarks and really mastering games. And they're darn good at it. The Eagles, I know for a fact, they are working on get off. They are working on hands. They are working on winning one-on-one. And I think the way you said it, you phrased it better than I could, because I loved it. That you want to major in something. If you're trying to major in everything, you major in nothing.
No.
So be great at one side of this thing. Who cares if your playbook's this big and say, oh, we can do a little this, we can do a little that, a little this, a little that. Like, those aren't the great teams. They do their thing better than everybody else. And that's why these two approaches, opposite approaches, both work.
You know, there's something to that, because DJ, when you go and you study all the great coaches from yesteryear or whatever, like Vince Lombardi. I had my radio partner, Steve Hartman. He used to work with SC, and he talked about John McKay, the legendary USC coach, and Vince Lombardi used to have these contests to see who could have the smallest playbook, right? And so at one point, like, I think the Packers had 6 or 8 plays, and same thing for SC, who was known for student body right, and then the Packers, known for the Packers sweep. And what happens is, DJ, look, man, this is what we do, but the only way to get good at it, you have to be really detailed in what you're doing. And the only way to be detailed is you got to rep it over and over and over again. And so when we talk about those teams and their 2 different philosophies, the time on task, if we're going to be a good stunt team, we got to allocate enough time to the task so we can be good at it. Same thing when it comes to the power rushes. It seems like those teams have figured out who they are, and they're very comfortable living in the worlds that they live in.
How would this translate, and you do it coaching at the high school level, but I'm curious what your thoughts are at the NFL level. Is there, we talk about gap schemes when we talk about zone schemes with offensive line and your run game. Are you going to be downhill power team? Or are you going to be bulls on parade, getting to the perimeter and run an outside zone, which a lot of teams live off of? Are you better off kind of majoring in one of those versus having a diverse rushing attack where we do a little bit of, everything?
You're better off majoring. In my estimation, you're better off majoring. It's almost one of the reasons why back in the old days when Mike Shanahan and Alex Gibbs were together, and it was the zone system. And going in, you're going to deal with inside and really outside zone. But because this is what they do, they live and breathe it. They've been doing it from the beginning of OTAs all the way through the season. The reps. There's a quote that I use with my team. It's an old Bruce Lee quote. I want to make sure I get it right. Bruce Lee says, "I fear not the man who has done 10,000 kicks one time. I fear the man who's done one kick 10,000 times." And so, DJ, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the mastery of what it is that we do. I don't care if you can know what's coming, but we do it so much that there's no way you can prepare for what you're going to face, because we live it. You don't live it.
Yeah, well, I think it's great. And your high school team's another testament to that. You guys committed yourself to running the rock, and you did it as well as anybody, and you guys had a ton of success. And I'm sure there was a large percentage of snaps where the dudes on the other side of the ball knew exactly what was coming. You can't do anything about it.
You only run like 3 or 4 plays. So
that's what I'm saying. You are who you are. You are who you are. You rep it, you master it, and then you live with it. So I don't know.
No, but this is fascinating. Like the stunts in games and that stuff in terms of like hey man, we're just gonna get good at. We're gonna do it over and over. But the thing that you said, it's like isolation basketball, right? I used to love back in the day when the Utah Jazz would run pick and roll on one side, but then post somebody up on the other side and do that stuff. They're giving you all that hocus pocus on the right, and then Michael Parsons is hitting you in the mouth from the left. Like, that's cool. We got to talk about all these 3-man games, but dog it, Michael Parsons just had a one-on-one and just ran scot-free. The quarterback.
Yeah, no, it's so true, man. It is. I mean, that's like when you look at those two teams and look at the sacks, the thing that when you're like, whoa, I look at it from the offensive side, go, oh man, that's a nightmare. The nightmare is when they do all that fluff on one side and they free up the stud to go to work on the other. And that's what those teams have done. So again, two different approaches, but at times it can look similar because they're finding ways to isolate those guys, their best rushers, and let them get to work.